Welcome to Software Leaders Uncensored with Steve Taplin. Welcome to Software Leaders Uncensored, where tech leaders drop the filter and just tell it like it is. I'm your host, Steve Taplin, a serial technology entrepreneur who's launched 30 companies, had 20 of those fail, but scaled 10 of those to success. And I turned that roller coaster of a ride into my book. It's called Fail Hard, Win Big. And this is where I teach you how to turn failure into your biggest competitive advantage and how custom software always played a defining role in every win. Now I'm the CEO of Sonatify Technology. We're a nearshore software engineering firm. And today we have a fun guest, Claire Fang, who is the Chief Product and Technology Officer of Fullstory. Claire has been a project manager turned product manager to product executive. She's worked for huge companies like Microsoft and Facebook and is now the Chief Product and Technology Officer at Fullstory. Claire, welcome.
Hi, Steve. Glad to be here.
Thank you for coming on the show. If you would, please give our listeners a couple-minute overview of the journey of your career.
Of course, I have a kind of a zigzag journey in my career. Beginning of my career, I studied computer engineering. I did speech recognition on hardware as part of my PhD program. That was the AI back in the day. We didn't have AI as we know today, but speech recognition was the state of art AI back in those days. And then after my PhD, I switched to a sort of business-oriented job. I was a consultant with McKinsey for a few years because I just wanted to broaden my knowledge and my experience. And then after a few years with McKinsey, I was dying to get back into the tech world. And so I joined Microsoft. I spent 8 years at Microsoft, majority of the time as a product manager in Microsoft Azure. And after that, I spent a few years with Facebook, at the time still called Facebook, building a unified business identity platform across Instagram, WhatsApp, and Facebook pages. After that, I spent a few years at Qualtrics, leading product for one of their business lines. After Qualtrics, I got the startup itch. I really wanted to join a startup company, but at the time, my family situation didn't allow me to jump to a super early stage startup. So I went to a growth stage startup called Seekout. We built recruiting software for recruiters to help them find talent that perfectly match with the job requirement. And then last year, I joined Fullstory as their Chief Product and Technology Officer.
Awesome story. And so literally from the PhD side of computer engineering to the business side and then back. I love it.
Yeah. I really enjoy the breadth of my experience. I tell people, explore early in your career, or just take some risks to learn new things, and that's going to be useful later in your career.
Now, tell us more about Fullstory.
Yeah, well, Fullstory is a leader in digital experience analytics category. So what does that mean? It helps companies understand their user experience on their digital property, whether it's on their website or on mobile app. What Fullstory is most known for is its session replay. So we allow users to be able to watch how their customers use their websites, use their mobile app, almost like watching a video replay. And that's what we're known for. But honestly, the company is much more than just session replay. We're really just a data company. Session replay is just one place that the data shows up. The data also shows up in product analytics. We provide product analytics to product managers to understand how their product is performing. We're now also with AI, we're also building behavioral intelligence for AI. When companies deploy AI agent on their websites, we give that user behavioral context for AI agents, so that the AI agent can actually serve the users better, ask customer, answer questions more accurately, because now they can actually see what the user have done through Fullstory.
Very cool. Now, you have an impressive background, certainly understand your qualifications, but how did you get the job at Fullstory? Did you apply online? Did you know somebody?
Well, it's a little bit serendipitous. The CEO at Fullstory, Scott, and I know a recruiter. Both we know this recruiter, and the recruiter connected us. And once we talked, we felt like this is a perfect fit because my experience back in the Qualtrics days was exactly the journey that they wanted to take Fullstory through, which is going through a single product company to a multi-product portfolio company. And so my experience and expertise I gathered in my Qualtrics days was just the perfect fit for what they're looking for. And so after we had the conversation and we both felt like this is a great fit.
Awesome. So recruiters came through for you there
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
do that connection for you to then do your thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, let's talk about, from my vantage point, and please disagree if you do not agree, but the chief product and technology officer in a combined role has been relatively new in the industry. I see great benefits to it. As my company, we go in and help companies when things aren't going right, they're not moving fast enough. And 9 out of 10 times, it's the product team and the engineering team are not in sync.
Right.
With that said, I think it takes an extraordinarily unique individual with a unique mix of talents to be able to play both the chief product and chief technology officer, but would love your viewpoints on this.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. This role is not very common, but it's actually becoming a trend now as I hear it. I really love this role. This is the first time I'm taking the CPTO role. I love it. The reason I love it is because, some of the challenge that you're saying is much, much more manageable when the organization, both the product and engineering, roll up to the single leader. It's not just about reporting architecture. It also impacts all of the organizational rhythms, the meeting cadence, and so on. Because those two sides of the organization share a lot of the same meeting cadence, those two sides oftentimes have the shared context about how the business is doing, what the customers are saying, what are the priorities from top down, what are the things that needs to be escalated. Those things are constantly being shared in the same rhythm where product leaders and engineering leaders are sitting together. And because we have the shared context, when it comes to prioritization, when it comes to decisions, it makes a lot easier to align because of that shared context. So I think this is not just a reporting structure, but also more of an aligned operational rhythm to allow both sides of the organization share the context.
Why do you think we're not seeing more CPTOs?
I think this is going to be a trend going forward. But I also, to your point, it requires some unique skill sets to be able to lead both sides of the organization. Very rare, like you see leader who have experience leading both sides, engineering side and product side, right? So you have a lot of people who either strong on the engineering side or strong on the product side. It's going to be a stretch for that leader to be able to cross the aisle and lead the other side of the organization. So that's kind of creates a little bit of a talent challenge to be able to fill those roles. But I would say, a lot of leaders are ready to be stretched into those roles. Myself is an example. I was stretched. It was the first time for me to take on this role. I did not know whether I could do it, but this is year 2. I really love it.
And I think it's a great thing. And that's the crux of a lot of challenges that we see. Now, how about rising to the top of the food chain in the tech world as a CPTO? How was that as a female in tech, which has been a very male dominated industry? How have you overcome the adversity with that?
Yeah, well, thanks for calling that out. So I feel like every step in my journey is an uphill battle. It's really an uphill battle to really find my place, to fit in this more of a male-dominated field. But because of these years of uphill battle, I kind of get used to it. I walk into the situation and I'm oftentimes the only female. And you kind of, after a while, you kind of just get used to it. You just don't think about male, female anymore. You really think about the problem. You really think about what you can bring to the table. So that's kind of the mindset I'm in. I don't see myself as a female leader. I'm just a leader, period. And I have my strengths. I have my weakness. I have my certain areas that I have expertise in. I have areas that I need to grow in. And that's just as any other leader.
So, what advice would you have for other females in the tech and engineering space To follow your path, what advice would you have?
I would say females tend to have more imposter syndrome than male. Everybody, to some degree, have a little bit of imposter syndrome. But research have shown that females tend to have a lot more imposter syndrome, not just leaders, every.
And this is interesting. I've never heard this perspective. Please go on.
Well, there's a well-known research that basically says when females look at a job application, when they look at a piece of job posting, they have to feel like they have to check every box in order for them to feel comfortable to apply. Whereas male candidates, oftentimes they see that they check one or two boxes and they feel like they are very qualified for the job. And that's a big difference in sort of how male views their qualification for a job versus how female views their qualification for a job. And that is something that we all have to be first aware of and then overcome.
Gotcha. That's very interesting. I've never heard that. And that's good advice for other females out there in the engineering world.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So just know that you are not the only one who don't check every box in the job qualification. No one checks every box on the job qualification. You have to
Awesome.
learn it and grow into it.
Well, tell us about some current projects at Fullstory you guys are working on, some cutting edge stuff.
Yeah, cool. Well, we're working on a lot of stuff with AI. I'll talk about maybe a couple of things that we're working on with AI. One is definitely incorporating AI into the analytics product suite that we have. Typically in the analytics world, if you think about it, it's about providing data, providing charts, providing all of these dashboards for human to analyze. But nowadays with the AI, human gets lazy. Humans like, why do I need to analyze? Let's just have AI analyze it for me, right? That's what we're going with Story AI. We call it a feature called Story AI. So Story AI is your AI agent that has all of the data analyst skills that can do all kinds of analysis for you. It can detect anomalies for you. It can do root cause analysis for you. It can, answer any questions you have in human language. So that's what we're doing, incorporating AI into sort of our analytics and insights offering. The other
Interesting.
project that we're doing with AI is to provide all of that behavioral insights to other AI agents outside of Fullstory. So today, if you think about a lot of companies, what they're doing with their websites, they're deploying AI agents to provide better customer experience. So there's an AI chat agent on the site. So if you are running into trouble finding what you're looking for, you can interact with the chat agent. Or if you're having trouble, let's say checkout, you saw some error, you can talk to the chat agent and maybe the chat agent can help you resolve. And so what we do is basically provide all of that behavioral data to the chat agent so that the chat agent actually have all of that context. It doesn't have to ask you what trouble did you run into, what are you interested in. It has all of the context through Fullstory. And so that's where we are providing value to AI agents that's trying to do things for human. And so those are some of the exciting projects going on.
Tell us about your engineering team, how many engineers you have, the work model you guys follow.
Yeah, we have about 100, a little bit up and down, about 100 engineers. We are a remote first model. So our company started in Atlanta as our headquarters. We still have our headquarters in Atlanta. There's still a substantial portion of our team based out of Atlanta. But because the company grew quite significantly over the pandemic years, we just hired across the entire United States. So now our product and engineering team is distributed mostly within US. We have some pockets of engineering teams starting in Eastern Europe and in Southern America. But that's, we're just starting to think about nearshore.
Gotcha. And what, as a CPTO, how are you guys doing things uniquely to make sure your product and engineering teams are aligned as it relates to processes and workflow?
Yeah, that's a great question. As I mentioned, one of the benefit of having both teams reporting to a single leader is to be able to align these processes. Have between product leaders and engineering leaders, we do quarterly planning together. We have a big quarterly sort of planning and review process, and we do the annual strategic planning together. And then in between, these quarterly execution, we also have bi-weekly with the team. We have a review with the team to kind of really see what's going on with the team and give feedback and so on. Those rhythms are also requiring in both eng leaders and product leaders to be present, and design leader as well. And so those are the rhythms where we are always together. We are always doing planning. We're doing reviews together. I found those rhythms hugely helpful to have that alignment.
Excellent. So, as a tech leader in Q4 2025, I had to think about that for a minute. What's the biggest challenge you're facing right now?
One of the big challenge we're facing right now, of course, I think probably faced by a lot of tech leaders, is really kind of see how AI or maybe AI disruption is going to change the product development model in terms of roles and responsibilities, as well as the workflow and process. And we are starting to sort of imagine or experiment with alternative models. For example, we are now having hybrid front-end engineer and designer being in a single role.
Okay.
Previously, we probably didn't attempt that, but now with AI, maybe that does not need to be two roles. Maybe one person could do the job, but that's still an experimentation. We also starting to talk about, for the right individual, we could have one person doing design and product management. Does that always have to be two different roles? And so some of
Gotcha.
these changes will have a lot of impact on how the process works, the roles and responsibilities divide works in the traditional product development sense. What is the right model? I think that's the big challenge, right? Like nobody knows what is the right model. These tools are constantly evolving, constantly improving. And so there's just a lot to be thought through and maybe to be experimented with.
And that's why people listen to this show to
Yeah.
hear how other leaders are attacking it, because I think we're all waiting for that magic answer.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I've got the magic answer. I can share some of the experiments that we're doing, but those are more of let's try and learn and iterate.
So, what's your biggest goal, whether it's business or technical, by year end?
By this year end? Yeah, well, we have this
That
year.
was probably an easier question when I asked it a few quarters ago, but
Yeah, yeah. We one of the big investment themes for us this year is definitely sort of AI, leverage the full power of AI to really transform this category of digital experience analytics. So we announced our Story AI early this year in April, but we have multiple releases this year to add on additional functionalities. It's not like one big bang launch. It was just several small releases that basically builds on all of the AI capabilities. So by this year end, we not only want to ship all of the AI feature that we envisioned, but also we want to see great customer adoption. We want to see these AI provided insights delivering business value. It's not just, insights in a few words, but actually finding dollars for our customers and be able to deliver these business value. So that what I would say is the big goal for end of this year. We're close. We have one final release this year coming up pretty soon, and we're already seeing many customers seeing that success and really be able to use the AI powered insights, finding business value. So we're definitely seeing that it's trending to be a great year for us.
so what have you guys integrated third party AI tools into your engineering and product process? What do you like? What do you not like?
Yeah. Um, as I said, we're still in a learning phase. We're experimenting with different tools. In our engineering tool stack, we definitely, Cursor is broadly used by our engineers for code generation. We're using Langsmith for evaluation. In our design world, we're just starting to use Figma Make to automate some of the design workflows. We're also experimenting with Bolt to kind of do a compare a comparison against Figma Make. And then in the product management world, one of the tools that's everybody loves is Google's Notebook LM, which just it's a great tool for disseminate information. It's very flexible. You can feed any types of information and then allow anyone to be able to search and ask questions. So for example,
So here's a dumb question.
yeah.
So Figma Make, is that a newer Figma AI product? I haven't heard that one.
Yeah, so Figma Make is the latest feature from Figma that basically allows you to communicate in natural language and allow AI to make designs for you.
And
Yeah, so it's kind of competing, I would say, competing with some of the other AI native tools like Lovable and Bolt. You probably have heard of those tools. And
yes,
Figma Make is Figma's answer to those tools.
interesting. I haven't been exposed to it, and I haven't heard others talk about that yet.
Yeah,
And then on the product management side, you said Notebook, Ella.
it's called Notebook LM. It's by
Okay,
Google.
Notebook.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
LM. Yeah, it's by Google. Um, we're just seeing some fantastic use cases. For example, we have some PMs importing a lot of their customer calls from Gone, importing the Gone transcript into Notebook LM. Essentially, those are all of your notes, right? All of the customer calls related to, let's say, a product feature area, and that becomes your notebook. And then anyone in the organization, whether it's an engineer, designer, researcher, product marketer, they want to understand what customer have said about X. Are there any people who are interested in Y? They can just ask questions. And then AI would then basically getting trained on this set of knowledge base, so to speak, and be able to give you tailored answer.
Excellent. I love, that I can learn something new every day. I have over 100 full-time engineers. We have dozens of clients. I host this podcast daily, and I still get to learn. I love it.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. Wasn't made aware of Figma Make, and that's the first time I've heard of Notebook LM as well. So
Yeah,
appreciate
and
you
then
sharing those.
another great use case I saw recently, one of our engineering leaders, we were dealing with a, very technical, thorny issue, and this issue has to be brought aware by a lot of people in the company. And because it's a very technical issue, it's just hard to send a document and expect everyone to read it and understand it. And he puts together the document and put in the document in Notebook LM and have AI generated a podcast to explain, just like you and me in conversations, to explain what this problem is. And that podcast made it so easy to understand in layman's term than reading his technical document.
Interesting. That's very interesting. And yes, it could be hard to get everybody to read something and comment on it, but getting them to listen,
Yeah,
a lot easier.
yeah. And also just translate it into such a conversational language made it so much easier to understand a deeply, deeply technical problem.
So I'm sure there's been a lot of reports out. MIT had one last quarter. Lots of the big news is how 95% of AI pilots are having zero or negative ROI for companies.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I think a couple problems. One is just really getting clear about what is the problem we are trying to solve. Like this should not be a sort of hammer looking for a nail situation. Oftentimes companies have a big mandate to say, we need to have this much AI adoption or whatnot. So that you're treating it as a hammer looking for a nail. And that often is not going to go well. Like really understanding what is the problem you're trying to solve with AI, that is half of the battle. I think the other half of the problem, in terms of some of the AI project doesn't deliver its vision, the problem is actually in the data. And we experience it ourselves. We see our customers experiencing it. For the AI to deliver good results or good answer, you need to have good data. You need to have connections to good data, but also you also have to be able to have relatively clean data. Oftentimes the data is very messy. If
Hmm.
human or employees haven't done the job to clean the data or structure the data, oftentimes AI just grab whatever data it grabs and sometimes it give you the wrong answer. And when the user asks AI a question, it gives the wrong answer, then the user lose confidence in AI.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing that everyone's struggling with is these massive amounts of data, not only to get it in the right format, but to keep it there and have the governance to make sure the data is always consistent.
Yeah, yeah. I would say that is the fundamentally same work, whether you have human deal with all of these processes or have AI deal with all of these processes. Having good data, having good, clean, structured data is the fundamental, and it's not something that you can, take a shortcut.
A big challenge a lot of CIOs, CTOs, CPTOs have is when non technical board members, executives, others don't understand AI and want to understand why the company hasn't made more progress. And that progress means a lot of things depending on who you're talking to. If it's the CFO, where's the cost efficiencies? From the board, you'll get a different perspective. How have you handled the explaining things like AI to non-technical peers, board members, others?
Well, I think you start from the problem you're trying to solve. Like in my position, when I explain to our board members in terms of what we're doing with AI, I really describe how our customers use our product today and where the inefficiencies are and how AI can make that process a lot more efficient and really anchor that explanation in customer problem and not get fixated on the actual AI technology, on the actual model that you're using. Because from their perspective, they don't care whether you're using Gemini or OpenAI, and all of that details matters to engineering, but don't matter at all to a business leader or a board member. And so really anchor the communication around what is the customer problem, what could be the business impact if you do it or if you don't do it. I think that's how you should communicate, to that level of audience.
So if your board comes in one day and say, why does Mark Zuckerberg saying he can get rid of 60% of his engineering team with AI, but you keep growing in the team? How do you respond to something like that? Which, is if you're in the space, you understand it a lot more if you're not in the space.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I would say, we are Facebook versus Fullstory. We're at a very different growth stage. Facebook, a lot of it is about maintaining its current big revenue base. Like it has a huge revenue base in terms of innovation, and actually, really, the innovation has really slowed down quite a lot. Whereas we are still at a growth stage, and a lot of the company growth hinges on innovation. So if we stop innovating, then the company will stop growing. And so just that different stage of the company makes the sort of the nature of the investment just being different. But that said, I think the board member, if they say this to me, they have a point around efficiency gain. Like I think you should be expected that AI makes engineering process, engineering sort of software development more efficient. So we should be able to ship more with the same amount of people. That I would totally agree.
And a phenomenal response. And I like how you compared your company to Facebook and the stages of that. Sometimes it could be like talking to a brick wall. Like now, my friend said at this other company said, they were able to cut costs by X%. Claire, thank you so much for getting uncensored with us today. I love your journey from computer engineer PhD to the business side to the tech side. You're a great female tech role model. It sounds like you guys are doing exciting things at Fullstory. Before we wrap, what's some no BS advice you have for other tech leaders out there trying to build, scale, or even just survive in these interesting times?
I would say one piece of no BS advice I have is fall in love with the problem, not your solution. We're all builders. We come up with our solution all the time, but it's too easily we just fall into our solution. And we just have to remember always fall in love with the problem, not
That is an excellent sound bit. I love it. I love it. And that's great advice. Claire, thank you so much. That's it for this episode of Software Leaders Uncensored. I'm Steve Taplin. If you enjoyed the show, go ahead and click subscribe. If you didn't enjoy it, well, we'll just send it to your competitors. Might be the edge they need. Remember to fail hard, win big, and always build what matters. See you next time. That's a wrap. Another great episode of Software Leaders Uncensored. Thank you guys so much for listening. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun doing this show. I love talking with great tech leaders. As a side note, if you're interested, check out my new book, Fail Hard, Win Big. This is the story of how I built 30 companies, failed on 20, and turned 10 into multi-million-dollar wins. The common thread with all of them was custom software. Also, if you need software development help out there, my company, Sonatify Technology, we deliver world-class software development engineers out of Latin America. We have a solid track record of helping companies launch better products and faster. Thanks again for listening. Appreciate it and appreciate you.